Hey Hyunjin bros, how's it going? I'm the Duke of Italy, favorite lo-fi music YouTuber, and you might have noticed I referred to us as Hyunjin bros today, not Yeji bros as people are on Mew at points in K-pop generals, but as opposed to Yeji, we are talking about some K-pop, and we're talking about a K-pop group that is, I don't know if they're near and dear to my heart, but I could now say that I've not only seen them live, but I do like and appreciate a good amount of their music. That group we're talking about today is, of course, LOONA, the very famous, the very influential, the K-pop group, the one that has come up rather recently in fame, and the one that is doing their first ever world tour. And I saw them live in Louisville, Kentucky. And of course, I had to mention Hyunjin Bros because I'm just going to get it out of the way right now. My bias, I say bias, the love of my life is Hyunjin. Im Hyunjin, I believe, is her name. I think her name's like Im or something. I don't know. But either way, I love Hyunjin. I'm in love with Hyunjin. If anyone's going to ask me from now on, I'm just going to be like, yep, I would die for Hyunjin. Just straight up. I'd die 1,000 deaths for Hyunjin because she's just that freaking wonderful. But, we're not talking about Hyunjin today because if you're going to ask me like, oh, how was Hyunjin for the show? Actually, she looked a little bit sad for the opening of the set, but she kind of turned it around later. And then she seemed kind of a bit more chipper, and she was still engaged in the whole thing. But that doesn't really matter for what I'm talking about today. Because today we're going to be talking about the crowd, the quality of the show, the content of the show, pretty much if you guys should see it or not. Now, I'm someone who, before today, before this show in particular, and before knowing my friend Bridget, I would not have bought my own ticket to go see LOONA outside of this event. I pretty much went because of Bridget. I went with Bridget and Bridget's boyfriend, and we all took a trip up to Louisville. We came from Georgia, and we did a whole thing about it. And honestly, good experience. I'm going to say straight up, before anything else, this was a good quality, highly enjoyable show. From what everyone did on stage, I was really impressed. Really fun time. All 12 members of LOONA really brought a great energy, great dancing, which I haven't mentioned a show that had a lot of dancing before. In fact, I haven't even talked about a pop show for that matter. They also brought really good, just a great vibe to the whole place. Their singing, when you could hear it, which it was not that often, was also phenomenal. They're all good singers. But let's talk about the crowd for a moment, because they kind of made and broke the show in their own little way. Now, when I entered the venue, I'm just going to start off with this. I entered the venue and I got separated from Nick and Bridget pretty quick because they wanted to go be their cute little couple somewhere else. They basically were like 4 rows ahead of me. I showed it in the vlog if you guys watched that, but I'm assuming you didn't, so they were separated a little bit. And I'm 5'6", I'm pretty short, and I was wearing Air Force Ones, so that gave me like an extra ½ inch to maybe an inch. So basically, I couldn't see very much at all. And there was this fine little lesbian couple in front of me, directly in front of me. And I mean, pretty much 90% of the people at the show are gay in some way, shape, or form. I'm not personally, but I mean, if that's your speed, I'm not going to judge you at all. You do your thing. But one of these two people, one of these two women was wearing 4-inch platforms, absolutely ginormous platforms. And I mean, even if she wasn't there, I still wouldn't be able to see. But I was like, that's a little obnoxious. The venue we're at in Louisville in particular was just straight on the ground, and the stage was not that high up. If someone was like just a little athletic, they probably could have climbed on top or something. And that's a problem because, I couldn't see the members of LOONA that well. And most of the fans of LOONA, I expected to be, honestly, shorter women, to be perfectly honest with you guys. At the 100 Gex show, I saw perfectly fine because the average person there was a 5'2" woman. I saw over everybody, and it was great. And in terms of a viewing experience, probably the best one. And also 100 Gex were up pretty high, so I saw them pretty well. But that is not the case at the LOONA show. In fact, my vision of them was obscured for, 90% of the show at least. I could pretty much I was always on my toes, and I could usually pick out a head or two. Fortunately, I got to pick out Hyunjin a lot of the time, but I also saw Hyunjin a lot. I saw Vivi probably more than anyone else, and that's Bridget's bias. So, I mean, I gotta tell Bridget how happy Vivi was looking up there. Vivi, I might want to mention right now. If you're a first-time watcher of LOONA and you saw them for the first time at this show, Vivi's might be your bias from now on, because Vivi was bringing it the whole show. Vivi's energy was on point. Vivi didn't let any of this stuff get them down. And, you know, I hope Block B doesn't get mad at me for this, but I'm going to have to criticize that company. Your touring schedule for LOONA is, I don't know, borderline inhumane. It's kind of ridiculous how it's like flight show, flight show, flight show, you know, not a lot of downtime. And I know you're having them do their little YouTube videos and stuff like that, but like these are human beings, you know, you got to give them their rest time. And a lot of the show, actually, especially after I was talking, because I never get a one-on-one talk about K-pop with someone that isn't Bridget, and because K-pop isn't my thing in particular. Do I enjoy it? Yeah, sure, but it's not my thing. It's Bridget's thing. So I'm talking with Nick, and I was like, a lot of the stuff was talking about if their personalities are manufactured, what is real, what isn't. And it's a really trippy thing to think about. I don't like to think about it that much, because watching, I really hope that their personalities are shining through like they want it to. Because, you know, I feel like they talk on stage and it sounds pretty genuine. I feel like they're not putting that much of an act. So at least I'm like, it's not all manufactured. Probably at the most. And you know, they've even talked about this. I know Chu actually said in an interview one time that she's expected to be happy all the time, but that's not possible. And I totally agree. It's not possible. And I'm glad you can have moments to just be yourself. And I hope they're themselves this whole time, because that's kind of half the appeal of these K-pop groups, is that your favorite member can show off his or her personality. Because there's a lot of appeal in that. There's a lot of appeal in your favorite star, you know, showing off their personality, having a good time up there, and doing what they do best, and it's be a performer, as well as whatever else they like to do. That was a little bit of a detour, but of course I gotta talk more about this stuff. I mean, there's a show. So before the show even started, there are these advertisements up that were projected of whiskey or bourbon or something. I don't really remember. It doesn't really matter that much. But what does matter is that during the show, I feel like that could have maybe had a projector or something show footage of the members, because, you know, otherwise you're missing out on a lot of the show. As much as you're getting the music, which is great, you know, love hearing the music. That's what I'm always there for. Seeing the members and seeing the people on stage is a huge component. Even with bands I've seen a lot of sorrow, like Primitive Man, you know, they're not even costumed or anything, but the fact that they're there and the fact that I get to watch them puts like a face to the sound, and it kind of completes the experience, you know. Otherwise, I could just play it on Spotify really loud or get like a good record player going. So they didn't project any camera footage of them performing at all. I feel like that was a missed opportunity. I wish it was done. But behind them, there were like projections. There was like a giant screen that was showing all these different footage for different parts of the show. Now, I didn't mention this, but if you're a LOONA fan, which there's a good chance you are, you would know Chu was not on this tour. This was a big shame, as Chu was the first member I knew. It's still one of the few members that I know. I could tell you a few now and put the face to the name, but Chu was the first one, just because Chu always looks super unique. And, you know, she's just ball sunshine, but she wasn't at the show. She is in Korea doing her Chu Can Do It stuff right now. And also during the show, a little bit into the show, Cherry actually got sick or something happened. People were theorizing stuff on Twitter. I don't really care. It's not my business about what's going on with Cherry. You know, here's one other thing about K-pop. I don't need their lives to be my lives. And as much as I am concerned for them and I hope for their best well-being, I don't want to stress them out more with trying to sort of dig through their life and make it any more difficult than it probably is, because it's probably pretty difficult. And I want them to have as much enjoyment as possible. And I just want them to know that we enjoy them and that we support them. And, you know, we're not trying to stalk them or do anything weird. I mean, I know plenty of people out there trying to stalk them, and it's a huge shame. Like, I know the LOONA the Shark person that's out there, has been like banned from different venues and stuff. Like we're really trying to get rid of people like that. We want to support a healthy environment for our favorite pop stars, K-pop or otherwise. I mean, you probably won't catch me dead seeing an American pop show, but I mean, people do deserve their own privacy, I guess. But I hope Cherry's good now, and I think Hyunjin hurt her arm during the show. Hyunjin, I hope you're feeling okay. I doubt she's watching this or even understanding what I'm saying, because sometimes I talk really fast. But hey, I mean, Hyunjin, if you're somehow watching this, good luck on your arm. Hope it's doing well. But it could have been Hyunjin, to be perfectly honest. This is all because Bridget did the high touch thing, and if you don't know what that is, Bridget basically put on gloves and got to go give them a high five and talk to them for like a few seconds. But the line stopped, so Bridget got to talk to Hyunjin for like a good 10 seconds or something like that, which was great because I got my little plug in, and Hyunjin was like, wow, I'll go hit up that Duke guy. Hasn't happened yet, but you know what? Here's hoping. So I want to mention before the show, and not just a little bit before the show, a lot before the show, the morning, I think before or the night before, people started lining up in tents and stuff, and people started waiting very early, like morning of, night before, all this stuff. And there's drama in the line about people like making a numbering system for the line. It didn't make any sense. It was first come first serve, and you have someone sit in the line for a while. And if you came alone, you're out of luck. And I'll mention some more stuff about watching the show alone, because I know a lot of LOONA fans came alone. And I know because I heard them, and that's why they were making so many friends in line, is because they didn't have their own friend to bring with them. Not that LOONA fans or Orbits don't have friends, but you have to make friends because your friends aren't Orbits as well. And Bridget dragged Nick and I along, so that's how Bridget got friends to go with them. But I know that's not the same for everybody. And I'm just going to say out there, if you're skeptical, if you're in Orbit and you're skeptical about going to see the show because you're not sure if you're going to make friends, you will totally make friends in line if you make an effort. This person next to me was talking and was kind of a weird person. I'm going to say that. And she still was making some friends. So, you can totally make friends even if you're weird. And, I'm weird. And I could have made friends if I felt like it, but I really wasn't feeling it because I was not only a little under the weather, I just wasn't really feeling it anyway. I was like, I just want to go watch the show. That's what I'm here for. But I mentioned earlier how I got separated from Nick and Bridget. They went to do their couple stuff, and I was left pretty much having the group invisible. But being separate from Bridget gave me a whole different perspective of LOONA. It made me think of LOONA outside of the crazy fans, because I'm looking forward to the whole show. I see people in front of me, and I hear people behind me. So I hear screaming, and I see people in front of me, but I don't picture it to the face. So it's kind of this isolated experience, almost like a club. It's almost felt like I was going clubbing, but with like one direction in mind. And I gotta say, and I'm someone who likes a good chunk of LOONA's songs, their most popular songs mostly, and I also know Colors and not much else that they didn't perform, to be honest. I mean, I know Chu's single and Hyunjin's Kiss Later, and I think I knew Hula Hoop. Hula Hoop they actually didn't do live. That's something someone might be concerned about. I think they might bust it out in some of their shows, but they didn't bust it out for us. So I don't know all their songs super well. I like a good chunk of the ones that I know. A couple of them I'm not huge on, such as Paint the Town, for example. I'm not very huge on Paint the Town. I think some of the instrumentals are a little bit weird. And it's one of those songs where they kind of have ad-libs or almost scatting that really doesn't make a ton of sense to me. But I had a good time with those songs. That song is So What. I think it was So What, but it could be a different one. I don't really remember. Just a bit of the weirder LOONA songs in my opinion, but live they were vibey. They were really fun. I want to say every song they did live was super fun to be with. There was even one song that a subunit brought out that was more of like a ballad. Actually, it wasn't really a subunit. It was Hyunjin and one other member singing by themselves in a little duet. It was super cute, and they had a good time up there, but it was just a good time overall, just a vibe. The whole show was a vibe, I was just dancing to like the whole thing. And I will say also that the crowd was, for some reason, perfectly still. Now, I want to mention some complaints about the crowd. So them showing up way too early before is a nuisance already. And you know some orbits are going to be crazy. That's just going to happen. I mean, in a way, all orbits are crazy, as most fans of anything tend to be. If you're that crazy to buy this much merch and show up a day early, then maybe you're a little strange. But you know what? I respect it because I'm that way for Blade. I'm that way for Drain Gang. So I can't say that much because that's kind of who I am. But inside, you'd think they'd be going crazy. They weren't. A lot of them stood perfectly still. And I don't think I've had a show where I've seen so many phones. And I don't mean to sound like a boomer, but they were all recording. It was like the phone in one hand and the light stick in the other. And Bridget has a light stick. I don't own my own light stick. If you saw my Instagram story, that was Bridget's light stick I was holding up. I was kind of making a joke because my good friend back home, after hearing that I was going to see LOONA, was like, "Dude, you're a menace," because he knows I love Hyunjin, and all my friends know I love Hyunjin. So oddly, so still. The crowd was so still during the show. I was trying my best to dance and vibe, and I thought during a hi-hat people were gonna borderline mosh, and it didn't happen, which was a shame because I was trying to have a really good time. But I can't complain that much, At least it wasn't like violent. At least people were respecting each other's space as far as I could tell. I don't know if anyone got touched or anything. That's kind of beyond me. But to be honest, when I consider the physical energy of the Mayhem show and the physical energy of the LOONA show, they are complete opposites. Now, I would want more respect than the Mayhem show, but you could switch the energy of the two crowds in terms of physical movement, and I would have appreciated it both. I wish Mayhem was like borderline still with just headbanging, because I feel like that would be so much more of a vibe that would fit it. Meanwhile, this pop show, everyone's just like swinging their arm, and it's pretty awkward, to be honest. I don't really understand why it was like that. It felt a little bit strange, pretty odd, to be honest. So that's my thing about the crowd. Definitely not my favorite crowd, but for what I needed to do in the show, for me having to just jump around and have a good time, totally viable. And I'd say if you're unsure about going to the show for a crowd, have fun dancing with yourself. And LOONA did the song where it was dancing with myself, and that was actually not a song I knew before the show, but I had a good time. Before the show, inside the venue, they played a really long playlist of LOONA songs, of which Paint the Town played twice. It played basically all their hits, and if you didn't know a LOONA song, you knew it before the show started, because they played all of them. They didn't play any other artist, just played LOONA songs over the intercom. No Doja Cat, no Ed Sheeran. They didn't even assume you listened to anything else. They were just like, we're playing some LOONA. We're playing LOONA. You're going to know it all. And I respect that on one hand. I wish they didn't play so many things that showed up before the show. Personally, the songs from the subunits that I didn't know too well, or Dancing with Myself, those were the songs I didn't really know before watching the show. And I would have appreciated hearing those, but you can't really bank on just what Duke Vitaly says that he doesn't know before the show. So having songs you just wouldn't play in the set, I would have preferred much more to that. And since this is a live show or a concert review, I think it's about time I talk about the actual live material itself, because I haven't talked about that yet, and I feel like that's pretty necessary to talk about. So the lights all change, and it's about to get hype, and they played Paint the Town again before anything even happened, and the lights all cut, and then it was like, "Hi, welcome to Louisville, Kentucky." And I was like, I didn't know a member of LOONA was that good at English. It wasn't a member of LOONA. I think it was the translator. And then they all started to walk out, and then basically a dubstep song played. Not a LOONA song, it was a dubstep song. And I'm not the most well-versed in electronic music, but it was similar to dubstep, to be honest. It wasn't as crazy a bass drop as the bro step stuff would have, and it's not really as vibey as traditional British dubstep, but very hard bassy hit, and then they were dancing up there. And this was probably the best view I had of the show, and it was a good time watching them dance up here. And that is the thing I wanted to mention. In terms of lack of visual, that is such a detriment for the show because so much of it is a dance show, to be honest. You're there to see the beautiful faces. You're there to see them have these really awesome dance moves. You're there to watch it be super well put together. You're there for the spectacle of it all. And when you can't see, it's a bit of a struggle, to be honest with you guys. And then after that, they did, I believe, So What? And I talk about shows being ballsy, and I talk about them not being ballsy. And I want to say, ballsy opener. I loved it as an opener, even though I think that is a song that I don't love that much. It might not have been So What? It might have been Why Not? Why Not is a song that has that opening really weird sliding bass synthesizer that I first time I heard it, I was like, what the heck is that? It struck me off as pretty weird, but overall the song was fun. And they did, I want to say 2 songs before they stopped singing, and they all stood up at the stage and they all introduced themselves, which I thought was cool because I was like, I'm glad I get to pair the face with the name yet again, because I've tried to pair them so many times and it's been a bit of a struggle, to be perfectly honest with you guys, because there are 12 of them. And that is the thing with some K-pop groups. Some of them are larger, 10, 12 people. BTS 7 people. If you're going for a small group and that's your only thing, as far as I can tell, Blackpink is the smallest group that has any chance of coming to America with 4 people. That's basically female big time rush. But you could go bigger than that, and you could be something that's still rather approachable. But LOONA is a pretty big group, and I understand if that's kind of an intimidating thing, because especially if you want to learn the members super well. So they all introduced themselves and they had some words and they were like, are you ready for the next stage? Basically, it was a call and response for us to say woo. And they were like, are you this? And we're like, woo. And then after a few of those times, they're like, let's go do another song. And they did some more songs. And then they showed like a video clip, like a good 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes of video, which was like LOONA Got Talent on the screen. And this is when the crowd got lost a little bit. People started going on their phones and stuff. And LOONA, you guys, I respect you a lot, and this was enjoyable, but I think it was too long when they played this, and they even played it a second time later. Not this exact version, but it was like the part 2. And some of the LOONA members showed a talent that was super understandable to an American audience, and it was super funny to watch. Like Hyunjin did impressions. Actually, I'll get to Hyunjin in a moment. But what was funny was I believe Vivi showed up, like the second one, to do a bottle flip and just missed for like a good minute. And that was pretty funny. But one that wasn't as appealing to an American audience was Hyunjin. Her talent was impressions, and she did impressions of SpongeBob characters, but she did impressions of the Korean dubbed version of SpongeBob characters. So she said meow like Gary the snail does. I watched SpongeBob as a kid, so I know these characters super well, but then she did the SpongeBob impression, and I was like, SpongeBob doesn't sound like that at all. Maybe the Korean version does, but the American version of SpongeBob sounds so different. Like the Korean version of SpongeBob, I'm like, that's just a guy. That's just how people sound sometimes. So that bit didn't stick out as well. I don't know how many orbits understood Korean dubbed SpongeBob, but after seeing that, I was like, there's a bit of a divide here, and I don't want to trash what you guys are doing up there, but American audiences don't necessarily understand that. I do understand the joke, I guess. I love SpongeBob. I'm still going to love SpongeBob, and who knows, maybe someday I'll watch the Korean dub for some reason, but some of the jokes, I'm like, this doesn't resonate just because of the cultural divide. And I wish it did resonate because, the bit as a whole was pretty funny. And they showed some cool talents, like I believe Hasul doing opera style singing, which a lot of orbits love to talk about. And she freaking killed it up there. It sounded amazing. And they did it a second time. So it was like 20 minutes of this whole singing show was taken up by this video. And after this first section, they came back to do some more songs, and then they split into like the talking portion yet again. And they were like, "What do you think Hyunjin's gonna join as a subunit?" And I was watching, I'm like, are we really hyping up the fact that Hyunjin's not in a subunit and she's going to join one? I was like, I mean, I didn't even know the subunits were doing anything for the show, but I guess they are. And they came back after that and to actually do subunit songs. And I think the first one was Odd Eye Circle, if I remember correctly. I don't remember this at all. But the second group was one of the three subunits, and they did like this funk song. It was like a really funky song. And I was like, holy crap, I've never heard this song. This is like the best song of the night. And it was one of the subunit songs. I don't know if it was Odd Eye Circle, because I know Odd Eye Circle, they have an EP that's like incredibly highly rated. I believe for like 2017, they have like one of the top 5 EPs of the year on Rate Your Music. That's nothing to scoff at. That means you got a good EP going. And like K-pop won't reach a significant place on Rate Your Music for any sort of type of release unless you're good, or have some type of merit to you. And so, it was probably Odd Eye Circle that had this funky song. And I was like, yeah, it's probably Odd Eye Circle, because if it sounds that good, then, it's got to be the group that's like highly rated. But I don't know personally. And then Hyunjin went out and sang her song with the other member who I can't remember who was with her for the life of me. And I do apologize for that. And then after a little bit more, there was a time where they mentioned they were about halfway through the show. I was like, okay, kind of interesting, whatever. They did come out and talk a whole lot of times. It was probably like 4 times at least they talked at the front of the stage, plus the 2 videos. And I want to say this 2-hour-long show had probably about 10 songs to it, maybe 11. And there was one of the last talking portions. They were like, okay, we're about to do our last song of the show. And I was like, oh, geez, I'm having a really good time. And I was having a really good time. I didn't even take it with a grain of salt or anything. Just straight up, the show was good so far. Enjoyable. It was fun. I had very few complaints other than the fact that I couldn't see too well. And they're like, we're going to do our last song. And they went to do Paint the Town. And I was like, the members of LOONA were like, what song do you want it to be? And the crowd's like, we're not going to be able to talk to them. There's no freaking way they're going to be able to hear us. So everyone was pointing up because we all wanted Hi Hi. I wanted Hi Hi myself. Hi Hi is a better song than Paint the Town. If you disagree, you could go take a hike because you need to clear your head because you're freaking wrong. Hi Hi is an iconic K-pop song. One of the most iconic K-pop songs of recent memory, and one of the few that actually matters in the long run of musical history, and because it's a banger. That's why Hi Hi is just a banger, and you heard it from Duke of Italy. Hi Hi is in fact a total banger. It gets the boys moving. It gets us bumping, basically. And they did Paint the Town, and I was like, Paint the Town. I'll accept it because it's one of LOONA's most energetic songs, and I know they dropped it and the world went crazy for about a day or two. So they did Paint the Town, and I was like, crazy. And then they went off for a little bit before they came back to basically be like, hey, goodbye, hope you enjoyed the show. And then they did like a ballad, and I was like, okay, that doesn't count as a song. It's like a ballad. You don't do ballads at a live show this much. Which the Hyunjin song before was like kind of a ballad anyway, but I'm like, whatever. It's just them saying bye. It's them being cute. And they're all wearing like t-shirts basically. And then they were like, one more thing. And by this point, I was convinced they were about to leave the stage, but I was like, I don't know how they're going to leave the stage. And then I hear the synths start playing for Hi Hi, and I was like, you didn't actually bait me for 15 minutes, I might add. It was like 15 minutes of nothing until they dropped Hi Hi on us. And the crowd went crazy, of course. And it was a really good time watching them do Hi Hi. Unfortunately, at that point, the lip syncing was like super obvious because it sounded a lot like the studio version of the song. And whoever was singing for Chu's part, I was like, it sounds a lot like Chu's studio recording. It sounds a lot like the version that's on Spotify. But I'm not going to complain that much because overall what matters is that it's fun, and it was fun. And then the show ended. And then Nick and I hung out outside while Bridget was waiting to do the high touch. And Bridget came back with the biggest smile on their face. And we were happy. We were very happy. The LOONA show was a success. And it was a good time. So I guess some final thoughts. Do I recommend you go see the LOONA show? Absolutely, dudes. It's not that expensive. I think it's like 60. So, I mean, a little more than other stuff. But in terms of a positive force for good, this LOONA show, I mean, I have not seen any show like it. I've not seen any pop shows in my life before. But in terms of something that's super uplifting and fun, there's really not much else out there that you could compare to this. And I gotta commend LOONA for that. It was just a good time. And sometimes it's all you need is just a good time. And maybe it's changing my life in a good direction for that reason alone. And for that, I'm happy to recommend you go see it. And to be honest, would I see LOONA again? I absolutely would see LOONA again, especially if they bring Chew out, especially if I get some bigger shoes. I think I got a pair of shoes that's like an inch. I have a pair of like boots, but I don't want to wear that. I was wearing my Burberry belt and the Drain Gang shirt to the show. So, I was dripped down to the socks, bros. But I totally would go see LOONA again. It's a really good time, especially once they release another EP or mini album or something, and they get add another song to the cycle. And who knows, maybe they'll take my little criticisms in this video and make a better show. But it was already a great show to end with, basically. Because, I mean, we're reaching the end of this video and I've been talking for 32 minutes now. Basically, before I go, I want to say, great show. The girls did a great job. If you want to go see it, go see it. Don't hesitate too much because those tickets will sell out wherever you are. And you're going to have a good time. No matter what happens, you're going to have a good time. Just go and enjoy it. Because if you go in the mindset to enjoy it, you will enjoy it. Just don't be like you have to see them, because you might not get a good look at them at all. And overall, really great time. Totally recommend you guys go see it. And that's about it. Hope you guys are doing well out there. And if you want to like and subscribe, I'd appreciate it a lot. Comments, questions, and concerns down below. In the description, I've got my social medias linked if you want to give me a follow or anything like that. And I have my Discord page. And we talk about music there. But lately, we've just been talking about Blade. So if you want to talk about Blade, totally join. If you want to post your favorite music or your topsters or whatever, please join. I post that stuff too. Everyone really posts that stuff on there. And lately, especially, we've been having a good time. But overall, that's about it. Hope you guys are doing well out there. Have a good day. Bye.